Imagine a world of endless ancient forests, humid swamps, and a thin line of wooden cabins clinging to the edge of a vast, unknown continent. The year is 1676, a full century before the signing of the Declaration of Independence. In the colony of Virginia, the air is thick with more than just the scent of tobacco and river salt. It is thick with resentment. The capital, Jamestown, is not the shining beacon of a new world, but a pressure cooker of class tension, greed, and desperation. At the center of it all are two men, once kinsmen, now bitter enemies. The aging, aristocratic Governor William Berkeley and the young, fiery Nathaniel Bacon. This is not the story of a neat, heroic revolution. This is a story of fire, betrayal, and a chaotic uprising that would fundamentally reshape the social fabric of what would become the United States. By the mid-1670s, Virginia was a society of extreme haves and have-nots. Governor William Berkeley had ruled for decades, creating a tight-knit circle of wealthy Green Spring loyalists who controlled the best land, the lowest taxes, and the entire political apparatus of the colony. While the elite grew wealthy on the backs of tobacco exports, a growing class of poor whites, many of them former indentured servants, found themselves squeezed. They had served their 5 to 7 years of hard labor only to find that the promised freedom dues, land of their own, was either unavailable or located on the dangerous, exposed frontier. These frontiersmen felt abandoned by the government in Jamestown. They were being taxed heavily by a legislature they couldn't vote for, and they were bearing the brunt of a violent conflict with Native American tribes who were defending their own ancestral lands from colonial encroachment. To the people on the edge of the wilderness, Governor Berkeley seemed more interested in protecting his lucrative fur trade with the tribes than in protecting the lives of his own subjects. The stage was set for a spark to light the tinderbox. That spark arrived in the form of Nathaniel Bacon. Though he was a member of the privileged class himself, a cousin to Berkeley's wife and a member of the governor's council, Bacon was a man of restless ambition and a magnetic personality. When a series of bloody raids between settlers and the Susquehannock tribe escalated in 1675, Berkeley urged restraint, fearing a total war that would ruin the colony's economy. Bacon, however, saw an opportunity. He positioned himself as the champion of the common man, the only leader willing to take the fight to the frontier. Against the governor's explicit orders, Bacon gathered a volunteer militia. This was a diverse and unprecedented group. It included poor white farmers, landless frontiersmen, and, most significantly, both black and white indentured servants and enslaved people who saw in Bacon's defiance a chance to upend the system that oppressed them. In the spring of 1676, Bacon led his unauthorized army into the woods, not just attacking the tribes hostile to the English, but also those who had been long-standing allies of the colony. When Berkeley declared Bacon a rebel and a traitor, he didn't expect the colony to side with the young upstart. But Bacon's declaration of the people of Virginia struck a chord. He accused Berkeley of systemic corruption, of unfair taxation, and of failing to protect the people. The conflict quickly spiraled from a frontier war into a full-blown civil war. Berkeley was forced to flee his own capital as Bacon's forces marched on Jamestown. The summer of 1676 was a blur of skirmishes, shifted allegiances, and political maneuvering. Bacon was arrested, then pardoned, then fled, and then returned with an army. In September, the climax arrived. Bacon's forces laid siege to Jamestown. As Berkeley's supporters retreated to ships in the river, Bacon and his men realized they could not hold the town if the governor returned. Their solution was total. On the night of September 19th, they set the capital ablaze. The State House, the church, and the homes of the elite were reduced to ash. The first permanent English settlement in North America was a smoking ruin, sacrificed to the fury of its own citizens. For a moment, it seemed Bacon had won. He was the master of Virginia. But the victory was short-lived. In the swampy, unsanitary conditions of the campaign, Bacon fell ill with the bloody flux, dysentery. In October 1676, at the height of his power, the rebel leader died, not on the battlefield but in a sickbed. Without Bacon's charismatic leadership, the rebellion began to fracture. Governor Berkeley returned with a vengeance, supported by English warships that had finally arrived from across the Atlantic. He didn't just seek to restore order. He sought blood. Berkeley ignored the king's suggestions for mercy and began a campaign of executions. 23 of the leading rebels were sent to the gallows. The governor's cruelty was so extreme that King Charles II is famously said to have remarked that the old fool had hanged more men in that naked country than the king had for the murder of his father. Berkeley was eventually recalled to England in disgrace, where he died shortly after. But the true legacy of Bacon's rebellion wasn't found in the fate of its leaders. It was found in the cold, calculated reaction of the Virginia elite who remained. The rebellion had terrified the planter class. They had seen something they never wanted to see again. An alliance of poor whites, indentured servants, and enslaved Africans fighting together for a common cause against the ruling elite. To prevent such a coalition from ever forming again, the Virginia Assembly began to pass a series of laws that would change the world forever. These became known as the Virginia Slave Codes. They began to legally separate the laboring classes by race. They granted small privileges to poor whites while hardening the status of Africans into permanent, heritable chattel slavery. By driving a wedge of racial superiority between the two groups, the elite ensured that they would never again unite to burn down the Capitol. Bacon's rebellion is often called a rehearsal for the American Revolution, but it was something far more complex and darker. It was a populist uprising that was both a cry for representation and a violent land grab. It was a moment where a different kind of America might have been born, but instead, it became the moment where the racial lines of the South were etched in stone. As we look back at the charred ruins of 1676 Jamestown, we see a colony at a crossroads. We see the desperate struggle for survival on the frontier, the arrogance of an entrenched elite, and the terrifying power of a charismatic leader. Most of all, we see how the fears of the powerful can shape the laws of a nation for centuries to come. The fires of Jamestown were extinguished long ago, but the smoke from that rebellion still lingers in the air of the American story, a reminder of a revolution that changed everything, and a history that remains hidden in plain sight.